Hey guys, it's me Jules Chan again, and welcome to another segment of What's Up. You know, it's been a while since we've checked up on Comicsgate and their bigotry, so let's see what's going on with those xenophobic morons and everyone's favorite sexist, ego-driven piece of shit, Ethan Van Sciver, whatever.
You enjoyed that. You're damned right.
So, War Campaign! No, not that kind. People like World of Warcraft. For those who don't know, War Campaign is a supposed splinter group of the Comicsgate movement. They mostly consist of the movement's more radical, more aggressive members, employing the same tactics and believing in the same anti-SJW rhetoric. Gators and war campaigners tend to think of themselves as two different kinds of movements, or two different groups of people, saying one side is more extreme than the other, but let's just be fucking honest here, they're both Garbodor fires, and that's an insult to Garbodor, and I don't even like Garbodor! The ringleader of this splinter group, or movement, or whatever, is Ro Kabir, who also happens to have a YouTube channel. His content is basically the same sexist, bigoted crap you'd find on EVS's channel, just in less quantity, but just as obnoxious. To further support how they're just basically cut from the same gator cloth, here's a clip of Ro Kabir and his buddies talking about cosplayer Renfamous.
I speak of.
Yeah, we know exactly who you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ren F. Moose.
Yep, Miss Tons of Fun herself.
Very pretty lady. Okay, can you speak a little bit of history of this whore?
I mean, she's she's been around for as long as I can remember, man. Like, she's kind of like fuck. Herpes,
We don't even
I
usually
guess.
talk about her because
She's like herpes. Like, Comicsgate cannot shake her. So
That's right. She's called Goblin Queen LARPing, but you tell me a little bit about physical appearance first.
I mean, she's a little bit of a bigger girl, but if you're into chubby chicks, she's not that bad looking of a chick. But it's the attitude thing that kills it, right, Ro?
Oh,
she
yes,
has blue hair. Blue hair.
Personally, I feel for me it's easy mode because I am incel now from Celibacy Challenge of Rainbow Brute. I still feel a little attraction. I am very easy, man. Everything good
That's
for me.
what this is about.
You think so,
I
brother?
get it now. Well, yeah, you've been saving yourself for Caesar. You're going a little bit insane.
You tell me, brother. I mean, for you, is good or is not so good?
Oh, man. Man, like, no, not so good. Not so good.
You would
From Pan.
what would you do? I'm going to put picture. Okay, hold on a second. All chat. You tell me if is yes sexy or is no sexy. Okay, hold on 1 minute. I got two pictures. Okay, there we go. I will screen share. Okay, there we go. Very nice, very sexy.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You
beautiful.
tell me, everybody in chat. Is this
War campaigners, fuck that's an awkward word to say, posit themselves as the shield that protects creators from SJW bullshit. Who does that remind you of? And our buddy, totally not sexist, Brie Larson #1 fan, EVS, would praise War Campaign often, showing off how much he loves and supports War Campaign. War Campaigners were heralded as the soldiers of Caesar and EVS's attack dogs, I mean allies. That was until not too long ago, near the end of July. At the moment, at the time of this video's release, there is a pissing match between the two factions. It's pretty much a clusterfuck from what you would expect from these two groups. A lot of accusations and bitchy rantings about how comic gators were doxing war campaigners in streams and message boards, and spewing dehumanizing rhetoric and harassing people, and war campaigners doing the same to comic gators. It's basically the wolves eating each other. From what I've been told, the tension between these two groups has been occurring over weeks, possibly even months. The tension has always been there, just getting worse and worse. From what I've been told, recently it was someone on the Comicsgater side of things that started this whole kerfuffle, and their fellow bigots started some serious shit in the message boards and servers, and apparently behavior like this is becoming more and more frequent. Naturally, this led to war campaigners fighting back.
He said War Campaign is dead, and I'll tell you this, I don't give a fuck who it is. The next person that says that, I'll personally skull fuck them.
For weeks, EVS continued to support and defend War Campaign, trying to maintain good relations with them and maybe try to keep the peace. However, tensions escalated and War Campaign continued to harass EVS's customers, aka his comic gators. So EVS decided to finally cut ties with them, announcing his disassociation and disgust for his ex-friends at War Campaign. And here's where EVS fucked up, and it's the hilarious part. The problem with these two factions is that there's a lot of overlap. They're all made up of the same bigoted shit-stained cloth, and by that, I mean a lot of comic gators are war campaigners, or used to be war campaigners, but still supported EVS because he constantly defended War Campaign in the past. However, by disassociating with War Campaign and effectively throwing them under the bus, he alienated a huge portion of his supporters. There's a reason EVS liked them so much, because they were his groupies, his biggest supporters. A lot of them were backers for his Indiegogo to fund his stupid Cyberfrog comic. Speaking of which, really? A board game? For your shitty comic? Really? I'd rather play Dungeon Dice Monsters again. Actually, yeah, that would be more fun. And from what I've heard, his Indiegogo has been dropping after he basically threw a great deal of his supporters under the bus. Now, I knew something like this was going to happen eventually. Let me explain. I mean, when your movement makes you look like a bunch of Nazis, or when you're all a bunch of Nazis, or idiots who are gullible enough to believe bigoted rhetoric and still posit yourselves as the real critics, and that it's all the SJW's fault for all this forced diversity, no one is going to take you seriously with your nonsense and accept your bigotry. Naturally, once professional comic creators and comic fans who knew better started blocking anyone associated from Comicsgate or War Campaign, or just flat out ignoring them and not taking them seriously, and not dealing with their bullshit and standing up to them, the two factions basically had no one else to target but each other. All it would require is even the smallest transgression between them, because insular communities like this always collapse under the weight of their own bullshit. I'm kind of reminded of the Rift from the MLP community, or the Rationals, or basically any geeky-related message board on Kiwi farms. They're very insular communities, not united by love for a medium or quality content, but because they have a common enemy and are looking to stroke their hate boners. Their little group is just founded on hatred, and they don't actually like each other, so the moment some small transgression occurs, they're ready to rip each other's throats out. So of course, this was going to happen. They're just a bunch of drama queens. However, I will not stop laughing at seeing Nazis kill each other. It's amusing, even though I knew this was coming. Most especially due to the fact that EVS and his servants and former friends have made it their life's goal to bully people who speak out against their Nazi rhetoric and support diversity in basically any geeky industry, thinking that we're just as socially inept and emotionally unstable as they are, and thinking that this is our first rodeo, thinking that all of this bullying would ruin our lives or our career. Anthony Gremugula, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a freelance writer for comic book resources in the Mary Sue, was put on blast by EVS for writing an article that talked about the possibility of gay Spider-Man. Now, as someone who doesn't care about fan theories, speculation about power levels, or what if about lore, or what if this happened, they're just speculation at the end of the day, or at best a suggestion. Fan theories and speculation are only a problem if the people speculating are gross and toxic, or have very messed up theories, or when fans can't handle when their headcanons are smashed or contradicted. However, the idea of a gay or bisexual Peter Parker wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility if you even had the slightest understanding of how sexuality and writing works, or aren't bothered by minor changes in history and lore. Speaking of which, I really should do a video on lore and how people obsess over it. Given the reaction Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield received when they opened up this very same question, and considering comic gators operate on a hair trigger, well, let's just say Anthony deserves a well-needed vacation after putting up with this comic gator bullshit, speaking as someone who has been dealing with their delusional bullshit as well. And speaking from both mine and Anthony's experience, this hailstorm of harassment didn't really ruin us in any way. I mean, if anything, it's only strengthened our resolve to continue making content, given us a lot more exposure, and put us into contact with a lot of wonderful people. I've been told the editors at Comic Book Resources actually liked Anthony's piece on Spider-Man, and he continues to get more assignments, even from the Mary Sue. So EVS's attempt to bully Anthony off of Comic Book Resources didn't really work. Now, while Comicsgate and War Campaign seem to be preoccupied with tearing each other apart, there are some people who are labeling Comicsgate as officially dead. let's not get ahead of ourselves, guys. Bigots like this will always exist. As they say, evil never truly dies. It just takes a new form or just gets rebranded. I've said this before, always be on guard when someone tries to sell you bigoted, sexist, racist, homophobic, dehumanizing rhetoric and trying to pass it off as worthwhile criticism. Remember, just because it sounds correct doesn't mean it is. Especially if they use the word SJW unironically. I mean, if anything, that just shows that you're doing it right by pissing them off. And if any of you comic gators, war campaigners, or even just Kiwi Farm dwellers, or even just EVS himself made it this far, hi! I hope you're enjoying your time in a hell of your own making. Alright guys, that's all the time I have. Come at me, comment section, and I'll see you next time.